6. Thank you for everyone that's joined on in the journey. And if this is your first one, welcome. We are very happy to have you here with us today. I am Rahul. You can find me on Twitter at nrahul11, along with my work all over the Going for Two network. I'm here today with my co-host Jerry Wilkie. How you doing, my man?
What's going on? You can find me at Jerry Wilkie FM on the new X, they call it now. It's not Twitter anymore. We're recording this on the opening night of the Hall of Fame game, so we got that on in the background here, recording a Thursday night. Pretty fun. I'm excited. Football's right around the corner for us.
It really feels real, huh? I think August brings with it the realization that football is right around the corner. I think all of us dynasty heads, we have, we're thinking about football
There's
24/7,
no
three
off
sixty
season.
five. Yeah, there's no off season, but with the August wins just came with the sense that we are almost here. So we're very excited to talk some football with you today. As always, this is the show where we break down your rosters. We talk through the strengths and weaknesses and give our thoughts on how we think your team is going to do in your leagues this year. Yet again, we have a Scott Fishbowl special episode for you. I hope everyone enjoyed last week's SFB special one. Here's special two. We certainly did, and we're excited to get into four teams yet again today. And let's get right to it with our first team. This one was submitted by my man Patrick J, or username PMax83. Thank you so much for your submission. He is playing in the Dole Whip division, drafting from the 11th spot. Let me just run through the roster real quick before I turn it over to Jerry. At QB, Patrick has Kirk Cousins, Kyler Murray, Sam Howell, and Mike White. At running back, Christian McCaffrey, Jahmyr Gibbs, Tank Bigsby, Jeff Wilson, Chase Brown, Leonard Fournette, and Cordarrelle Patterson. Wide receiver, there's Jamar Chase, Terry McLaurin, Mike Williams, Jackson Smith and Jigba, Darnell Mooney, John Mechie, Isaiah Hodgins, Josh Downs. Tight end, we've got Kyle Pitts, Pat Fryermuth. And the kicker, of course, is Graham Gano of the New York Giants. Jerry, what are you thinking about this team? Where are its strengths and weaknesses in your eyes?
Strengths are probably wide receivers, but I just want to make a quick point here that there's not many leagues this year in drafts that I've done. Really haven't hit redraft season hard yet,
Mm-hmm.
so things could definitely change. But like in all the drafts that I've done this year so far, best balls, Scott Fishbowl, I've done one. You're not seeing a lot of teams that have Christian McCaffrey and Jamar Chase on the same team.
Yeah.
Um, McCaffrey falling to now. If you're unfamiliar, it is a super flex league. Kickers are kind of buffed up in points too. Not that you're taking them in the first 10 rounds or whatever, but they are kind of buffed too. So like all positions have value. Um, Running backs get 0.25 per carry, so they get a
Mm-hmm.
little boost there too. But regardless, you're really not seeing a Chase fall to the second or B McCaffrey go that late in the first. But so yeah, to get McCaffrey and Chase on the same team is just it's really good, really nice start
Mm-hmm.
to the draft there. But I'll start off like I said with the wide receivers being a strength of the team, getting Chase at the beginning of the second, getting Terry McLaurin. He's got the stack there with Sam Howell. Getting Jackson Smith and Jigba and Mike Williams, a couple guys that could easily boom at the same time they could bust too, as well as Darnell Mooney. Getting the question mark in John Mechie, but maybe he turns out to be the one in Houston. And then Isaiah Hodgins, who is the biggest wide receiver that the Giants have,
Right.
going out there, hopefully catching some touchdowns from Daniel Jones because outside of Darren Waller, he's the best red zone guy that they got because everybody else is small.
Them and their infinite slot receivers. Yeah, Isaiah Hodgins for some people was ended up being a league winner. Not even just in redraft leagues, but there were tons of dynasty leagues where he just was on the waivers and ended up being quite a useful, not even a plug and play, a strong starting receiver. So I like that. Kind of piggybacking off you, I do agree that the wide receiver is a strength in this team as you've described. I do also want to touch on the tight ends. This is a tight end premium league, so tight ends are also buffed, and it's a strategy that I really love here, taking both Kyle Pitts and Pat Freiermuth, going one with Pitts, the guy kind of in this format really has the upside to be a league breaking weapon, getting him at the end of the fourth round. Um, you do have a little bit of worry with how the previous year went. This year, a low passing volume offense led by Desmond Ritter surely can't be as bad as it was last year. But if everything clicks for Kyle Pitts, who is a phenomenal talent, he could be a difference maker. I like backing that up with Pat Freiermuth, who, in his own right, in a format like this, should be a weekly starter that you plug into your flex, and you're pretty happy with the production you get from. Um, the kind of tight end who will get regular targets in the Steelers offense. But the contrast between the two, Kyle Pitts could be boom or bust. Pat Freiermuth, a reliable option. If you do have to go with just one, you can certainly fill your team with either of those two options, and I do think that's a strength of this team.
Yeah, for sure. I like the tight ends. As far as the weaknesses go, I don't really want to say running backs, but it's unfortunately with only really 4 positions, we don't really count the kickers. Running backs is probably the weakest of the 4.
Mm-hmm.
Had some very good points on the tight ends. It's really a tie between running backs and quarterbacks. But as long as if Kyler comes back and gets the form, or you're getting a whole 16 game season out of Sam Howell, he should be good enough to be a quarterback 2, and then Kirk Cousins being a borderline quarterback 1, maybe mid quarterback 2. So I don't hate the quarterbacks, but there's a lot of risk with the running backs, and I believe it's start 2. Is that correct? Start 2, and then there's a couple flex there. So you have to start 2. McCaffrey obviously is going to be one of them, but then he's got 3 rookies, a question mark in Jeff Wilson, who we talked about on last week's show. I do like him a lot, but there's a lot of question marks in Miami's backfield. Who's going to lead the way? Jeff Wilson probably has a touchdown upside, but how often is he going to be on the field? Are you throwing him out there into your flex, banking on a touchdown, or to get 10 carries for 40 yards and then that's it? So.
Right.
And then Leonard Fournette, obviously without a team. Cordell Patterson kind of being bumped down because Bijan's there, and Tyler Algier had the year that he had. So if he could go into being sort of like a wide receiver 3, 4 for them, maybe he picks up some value, but I'm not playing him above a Kyle Pitts or a Drake London, and relying on Desmond Ritter with 4 career starts in that sense. So running backs, we already know it's a tricky situation. A lot of them end up getting hurt. You're probably going to get some value out of Gibbs. You're probably going to get some value out of Tank Bigsby, possibly get something out of Brown, because all 3 of the guys Gibbs isn't really following anybody with injury issues, but like Bigsby and Chase Brown, following guys that have missed some time in the past. So maybe get a couple weeks in there, 3-4 weeks where somebody goes down with something, and you get some value out of them.
No, I think I have to completely agree with your analysis there of both the running back and the quarterback positions being ones to really watch out for. Just quickly on the quarterbacks, I think it is high risk with that QB2 spot, but feasibly you are going to be able to figure something out between Sam Howell and Kyler Murray in, of course, the league that does award 0.25 per carry. Running back, again, Jerry just hit the nail on the head. It is a high risk build. Jahmyr Gibbs is going to be very exciting to watch. We don't need to talk about CMC, but Jahmyr Gibbs, he is going to be interesting to watch. How much of a red zone role will he get in this offense? Will he have to be worked in? And then with, an undersized running back, you do have to have that injury concern as well. So there is a world in which this crumbles quickly. But moving forward from that, Jerry, just wanted to remind you that you were on mute, but you got me there. What is your favorite? What is 1 or 2 of your favorite value picks in this draft?
I got to go with my boy Isaiah Hodgins. Getting him in the 17th round easily could be the wide receiver 1 for the New York Giants. Now, does that mean a lot with not a lot of passing volume there, and with Darren Waller maybe taking a lot of work too, and all the slot
Mhm.
guys that they got. It might not. I mean, we could realistically see Daniel Jones throw for 20, 22 touchdowns and 3,000 yards, and that's not good for the fantasy receivers. But Isaiah Hodgins definitely has a chance to lead the team in touchdowns, lead the team in targets, and be a nice flex play for, especially in favorable matchups too. Be a nice flex play for this team here.
Mhm. No, I completely agree with that. Another one to touch on. Um, I'm going to be greedy and say two, but I really like the double pick of Jeff Wilson and Chase Brown. They're the 14th and 15th, 14, 15 turn. Jeff Wilson, we mentioned a lot in the last episode, but here's someone who probably was drafted as the last Dolphins running back off the board, who could easily be the rushing volume leader in that team, especially now with where it looks like Dalvin Cook is not going to be joining the Dolphins. Uh, then on the other end, Chase Brown is kind of the opposite, where uh, he might not have much of a role, if any role, to start, but he's one Joe Mixon injury away from being the lead back in a competition less backfield of one of the most potent offenses in the NFL. So that could be a very high upside play. Uh, if the chips fall where they may. Um, Moving on from that, on the other side, though, what is a pick or two that you might have changed if you were in the draft room?
I probably would have looked at a different. Well, I mean, I don't know who would have been there, but possibly a quarterback outside of Kyler Murray, around the eighth spot or even the seventh spot. Maybe picked up either Pat Fryermuth in the eighth round or maybe a different upside tight end a little bit later. But Kyler Murray is a big question mark right now. He just lost one of his best weapons, obviously, with DeAndre Hopkins gone. And we don't know when he's coming back. We don't know if he's going to be ready week one. I haven't heard any news lately, and
Mm-hmm.
we're in the beginning of August right now. Haven't seen a lot of camp tape on Arizona. Again, they're not really an exciting team, so media is really not all over them either. But I might have looked for another safer play there, especially with Kirk being the QB1, and then a couple question marks a little later because Sam Howell, there's a chance that he doesn't play the whole year, and Mike White might be a wasted pick if Tua stays healthy all year. So I would have liked a safer QB2. Although you can't really go wrong with having the upside of Kyler. Just
Mm-hmm.
having to play two, you want a better option there.
No, I think I completely agree with you there. I mean, to go with it's interesting to go with Sam Howell. I probably would have considered bringing Jacoby Brissett in certainly in a later round. He perhaps may even be on waivers in your league, Patrick. So go check that out. But might have preferred doing the Howell Brissett combination, and then using the Kyler pick on another skill position player. We've definitely seen a lot of running backs in that later, 8th, 10th round range that, we've really liked the values of. And I mean, perhaps even a James Conner could have been available that late, but in this point per carry format, point per first down, um, a lot of running backs who may not be as exciting in traditional redraft leagues do provide extra value, and that could have been a better allocation of resources.
And
Um,
just real quick with just throw a couple other things out there. I don't think we mentioned this enough last week, but with the Scott Fish Bowl, it is a third round reversal. As you guys
mhm,
might notice, you see Jamar Chase going 202, then Kirk Cousins going 302. So all the drafts are set up that way. And then a lot of these drafts started like what, a month and a half ago, and if they went quick, you're going to see some picks in some weird spots. So maybe Chase Brown was taken before Mixon got that contract
yep.
rework, and that could have been a good pick at the time. And now it's still a good pick. I mean, the 15th round, you can't really go wrong, but it's a little worse of a pick now because we're assuming Joe Mixon is fine with his contract this year and he's going to be playing all year. So, a
Mhm.
couple of these, like if you're looking at these rosters, if you never played in Scott Fish Bowl before, you're going to see some head scratching picks and some picks that like what's going on here. But you got to think that of the time frame that we drafted these things and the news that might have been going on at the time. Like you might see DeAndre Hopkins in the double-digit rounds because nobody knew where he was going to go at that time. Like last week, we saw him in what was the 7th or 8th round,
Yeah,
and as
7.
the wide receiver 1 for that specific team, and
Mm-hmm.
good pick. But just something for any of the listeners to keep their eyes on.
Yeah, there'll be a team that we get into today where the running backs 1 and 2 have been in the news quite a bit recently, and you'll probably see in underdog drafts see them being their value being depressed a little bit. But that was a good point to note, Jerry. But overall, Patrick, like your team, like your build, I think there are a lot of strengths to be very confident in. And this should be a strong team for this year. Thank you so much for your submission. Moving on to our next team, and this is submitted by a friend of the show, Courtney 1013, otherwise known as Love Tractor. So thank you so much for your submission. I don't know why this one, the
It's a
Zoom.
little
Oh,
small.
there we go. I was trying to kind of fiddle with that earlier, but here we go. Uh, Courtney here is playing in the Dunkaroos division, was drafting from the 104. At quarterback, she has Josh Allen, Anthony Richardson, and Gardner Minshew. At running back, this is the team I was mentioning, but Jonathan Taylor, J.K. Dobbins, James Conner, James Cook, Tank Bigsby, Zach Evans, and Sean Tucker. At wide receiver, we've got Amon-Ra St. Brown, Keenan Allen, Jordan Addison, Rashad Bateman, Sky Moore, Romeo Dobbs, John Mechie, and Puka Nakua. Tight end, we've got David Njoku, Juwan Johnson, Jelani Woods. Jelani Woods? Jelani.
I think it's Jelani, yeah.
Yeah. And at kicker, we've got the Jacksonville man, Brandon McManus. What do you think, Jerry? What do you think about the strengths of this team here?
I mean, regardless of the news of the running backs, especially with Jonathan Taylor and J.K. Dobbins, I think I got to go with that being a strength because on paper, for a 1 year season, um, I think it's a pretty strong room. I mean, even with the news, you're really not seeing Jonathan Taylor get out of the second round, so getting him in close to the end of the second round is good value there. J.K. Dobbins, and like I said, obviously everything plans on them all playing and being healthy from the start of the year and playing most of their games. But and if they are, it's gonna be a strong team. But Jonathan Taylor, J.K. Dobbins, we just mentioned a little bit of James Conner on the
Mm-hmm.
last team, even though they didn't have him. Um, James Conner might be the whole offense out there in Arizona, so I love that pick. James Cook is getting a lot of love here in Buffalo in camp, saying he could be on there for all the downs. I mean, for second and third down,
Right.
I could definitely see that. He averaged 5.7 a carry last year, limited time, but still 5.7 a carry. And then we got another team with Tank Bigsby, and then a trio of rookies there with Bigsby, Zach Evans, and Sean Tucker. Definitely some upside. A lot of these teams you're going to see a lot of upside players on the right side of the field, and then a lot of like your starters are going to be on the left side. But Bigsby, I love this year. Zach Evans, I've taken him in a couple of rookie drafts. And Sean Tucker, I really haven't been on too much, but I am a huge Rashad White guy, so that kind of explains that. But I do like where the running backs are headed in this team.
Yeah, I completely agree. It's interesting. You don't think of this as stack in the traditional sense, but you've got the QB running back combo for both the Bills and the Colts here. Bills, and you're the expert on this one here. Not traditionally a run heavy team where I would even say the lead back is Josh Allen, that man. But the Colts, on the other hand, this is a team that's going to run the heck out of the ball this year. Really to support Anthony Richardson. Of course, I'm sure everyone watching this is been following the news, kind of devolving into an ugly situation in Indianapolis. But my money's on Jonathan Taylor playing. It's not even the same situation as Josh Jacobs, where Jonathan Taylor has a contract to play this year at the Colts. He's not sitting out. He's playing, and if not in Indianapolis, he could be on his way to an NFL contender where you might even be more excited about his prognosis. But yeah, I do agree with you there that the running backs is a strength with both current starters as well as increased upside. I do also want to touch on the wide receiver room, it may be a little bit shallower than some other teams that we've looked at, maybe some other Bills that we like. But I think it's a very strong core when you've got obviously the Sun God, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Keenan Allen, and Jordan Addison. Really at wide receiver 37, I think is phenomenal value for, in my eyes, is going to be the most productive rookie receiver of this crop. Yeah, Jordan Addison is the wide receiver 3. That means you're expecting him to be a starter week on week, but I feel pretty good about that situation where Adam Thielen, ran the 6th most routes in the NFL last year. This is going to be a very pass-heavy offense on a team with a pretty bad defense. So they're going to be throwing the ball quite a bit. So a little bit shallow, but I feel pretty good about the wide receivers in this room.
Yeah, I mean, I was kind of back and forth between the wide receivers and the running backs. She's got 6 wide receivers that realistically could be the wide receiver 1 of their own team. I think Addison and probably Puka are the 2 that cannot. But Amon-Ra St. Brown, obviously, he's going in the top 10 for wide receivers. He's not making it out of the 3rd round in pretty much any drafts that I've seen. Keenan Allen, again, it's a 1-year league, so Keenan Allen is as good as anybody catching balls from Justin Herbert. Rashad Bateman, one of my favorite wide receivers, just personally, and I think he takes a step. And we seen it already last year with a couple of games of Lamar. He just got hurt, unfortunately. We don't know who the wide receiver 1 in KC is. Justin Ross is getting a lot of hype, and I absolutely love that. But Sky Moore could end up being the guy. Romeo Doubs could end up getting the connection with Jordan Love. I mean, there's still obviously Christian Watson is probably the most talented guy on the team. They drafted Jaden Reed in this past draft, but Dobbs is still there, and he could end up being the one that leads in targets, and John Mechie in Houston. So there's a lot of wide receiver, not fantasy wide receiver 1 upside, but there's a lot of wide receiver 1 upside that always equals targets and hopefully production. And like I said, I was going back and forth between the running backs and the wide receivers, and I really don't have any hate on this room at all. It could have actually been my biggest strength of this team.
Right. I actually probably did a bit of a disservice there by not getting past Addison in my analysis, but I think you said it perfectly, where even if in a traditional sense, Sky, Romeo Doubs, John Mechie aren't quote unquote NFL wide receiver 1s, they could very easily be the receivers who catch the most passes in each of those teams, just thinking about the roles that they play. So yeah, do like the room. On the flip side, what do you think is the weakness of this team?
It's tough because like any team that has a Josh Allen or a Hurts or a Mahomes is hard to say that that's the weakness. But you got to go to the quarterback. There really isn't. There's basically just 2 starters on this team because you're only going to have one of the 2 indie guys, and you're going to have Josh Allen. So definitely need a little bit of help. I would scour the waiver wire to see if there's anything out there. Maybe even just like even not a Mariota, a Heineke, or who was the guy that you just mentioned in the last one?
Jacoby Brissett.
Yeah, Jacoby Brissett. See if there's a Jacoby Brissett or a Taylor Heineke out there, just to roster them. Maybe get rid of Sean Tucker just to see if any of those starters go down, and you got another starter there. But you're basically, because on Allen's bye week, you're going to be starting a non-quarterback in the Superflex, and same thing with Indy. You're going to be starting a non-quarterback in the Superflex, and if they're on by the same week, that just sucks. But so I would have to go quarterback, and then yeah, they did stack James Cook with Josh Allen, but I might have tried to grab a different wide receiver, or I'm not going to say go out and get Dalton Kincaid in any of these spots where you would have had to sacrifice like a Jordan Addison or Rashad Bateman or whatever, but maybe look at a Khalil Shakir or a smaller stack that way. Just get a wide receiver quarterback stack with Josh Allen.
Right. No, I agree with you there. That being said, this is a quarterback room with so much upside. Like, of course, Josh Allen is Josh Allen, but Anthony Richardson, too, in this format where with 0.25 per carry, he could become a monster. And at QB16 is really lower than where you see him going in your underdog drafts, where he's regularly drafted around the QB 10 to 12 range. But you never want to be in a situation when you're starting a non-quarterback as your super flex. And I actually know this because Josh Allen is the quarterback that I have in my Scott Fishbowl draft, but his bye week is in week 13, which is when the SFB playoffs are, and that could be a bit of a sticky situation if you don't have another quarterback to throw in. So definitely scour the waiver wire there. Injuries happen all the time. So you can certainly be a little proactive and pick up someone that you may get to play just 10 weeks after you pick them up. But do just want to touch on the tight end position as well. I like the value getting David Njoku where he was picked in this draft at tight end 10 in the 8th round. But it's not a strong room by most measures, especially if you compare it to the room that we had in the last one that had Pitts and Pat Freiermuth. David Njoku, very athletic tight end, but it's also a crowded receiver room suddenly in Cleveland. I do have to check in on the Hall of Fame game, but of course Amari Cooper is there. But we also do have Cedric, Donovan Peoples-Jones, who got a lot of targets last year. We have Cedric Tillman, and of course Elijah Moore, who's getting a lot of buzz lately. It's possible that David Njoku, he could pop up with a touchdown here or there, but he may not really be that regular target and catch getter, of course, that you want in this format. Juwan Johnson, again, you have to give a nod to the fact this perhaps was drafted before all the news. But now when you look back at Juwan Johnson, especially in the 12th round, you're not really as excited in a room that obviously has Foster Moreau, thankfully, making a strong recovery from lymphoma. And then the legend himself, Jimmy Graham, joining that room. I think you put it really nicely when we talked about Juwan Johnson last week, where if any of the tight ends could, be tight end 1, that means no one's a tight end 1. And
with 4 of them there.
Yeah, Taysom Hill, of course, too. So I am a little bit worried. Jelani Woods, has, especially in dynasty circles, gotten a lot of hype, but that's actually another low-key crowded tight end room where they've got 3 or 4 other tight ends in addition to Woods. And it is a nice little low-key stack there, but probably won't be a high volume kind of player there. So something to think about. I don't know how many tight ends really would be on the waiver wires in this league, but see if you can supplement it somewhere, because with the scoring here, that is a very profitable position, shall we say. We kind of danced all over the agenda with this one, but really quickly, Jerry, if you could tell me what's one of your favorite picks on this team. On the flip side, what's one pick you may have changed?
I'll give you 2 favorite picks. I like John Mechie and I like Sky Moore, and we mentioned John Mechie a little bit in the last team, and we mentioned already that both of these guys could realistically be their team's wide receiver ones. I'm going to say that with a little bit of an asterisk, because obviously I'm not saying Sky Moore is going to be the target leader in Kansas City, because that's going to be Travis Kelce. But as a wide receiver, I think you got Justin Ross, you got Sky Moore, you got Kadarius Toney, who's going to be battling with lingering issues. You got Rashee Rice. So really, unless one of those guys kind of just breaks away from the pack, it's the same argument same point that we talked about with the tight ends in New Orleans. But it's not necessarily a bad thing, but because you're getting targets from Patrick Mahomes. Mm-hmm. So that very well could be Sky Moore. We saw him have a decent game in the Super Bowl, so we've seen him perform on the big stage already. And now he gets another full offseason and training camp with the Chiefs and with Mahomes, and knowing that he needs to step up a little bit because they don't have a lot of big names or big guys there that he's competing with. So I like Sky Moore. I like John Mechie, kind of for the same reasons, except for a little scaled down because CJ Stroud is not Patrick Mahomes, but there's definitely an opening for some targets and production there in Houston.
Yeah, no, I agree with you on both. I think especially now, sitting where we're sitting compared to when this is likely drafted, Sky Moore is getting so much buzz. Over on the former Bird app, the ex Bird app, shall we say. But getting in at wide receiver 55, where he could be, second in targets to Travis Kelce, that's a really nice pickup there. On the other hand, what's a pick that you may have changed?
Well, like I think I already said it, and kind of with the last team that we talked about, just like finding another quarterback somewhere. I wouldn't have necessarily not picked Anthony Richardson, but I might have looked maybe in the 8th, 9th, 10th round and replacing Njoku, Addison, or Cook with another quarterback, somebody with a little because you got the stud in Josh Allen, you got the upside in Richardson. We kind of got to get somebody safe. So
Right.
I would take it a quarterback around there, and between Richardson and Minshew, 16 to 36. 20 more quarterbacks were there in those 12 rounds, so I'm sure they were spread out, but I definitely would have tried to looked at somebody else.
Yeah, it's interesting because I love the picks of Addison, Cook, and Bateman on this team, but it's like sandwiched by the 2 tight end pits that I'm not as much of a fan of. Obviously, you have to feel the tight end. There's a big bonus, but sometimes we can be drawn a bit away from drafting the best player available and trying to fill our lineup. And I think that's almost what happened here with those 2 tight ends there, where they could have been used in a wiser way. But thank you so much, Courtney, for your submission. I hope that review brought some insight. It is still a very strong team with perhaps one of the highest ceilings that we've seen thus far, and I'm sure this team will do very well. Thank you for the submission there. Before we get on to our third team for the night, I do want to shout out tonight's sponsor, and that is Underdog Fantasy. Let me see if I can get this bad boy up on the screen. There we go. Underdog, of course, if you haven't heard of it, is a great app where you can get into drafts anytime you want. They fill up real quick, and in 40 minutes, you've got a whole team drafted. Best part about them is they're all best ball, so all you need to do is draft and let the season play out. You can also do all sorts of pick-ems and head-to-head, yardage comparisons and stuff. I saw one a couple of weeks ago on a show with Jeff that was Cam Akers versus Austin Eckler's rushing yard total, and that was a real interesting one because you wouldn't believe it, but Eckler hasn't had 1,000-yard rushing season. I don't know if I want to confident enough to say ever, but he didn't even hit 1,000 yards last year. Also, tons of drafts for all your other sport needs. You can sign up now with promo code GF2 or by scanning the QR code up on the screen to get a deposit match up to $100. That's just free money at that point. So go and get on Underdog. You will not regret it. And moving on to the third team of the night, we do have here team from Fister Bottom. If you get us censored, if this video gets censored on YouTube, we'll know why. We'll know it's because of this team. But thank you so much for your submission. They're playing here in the Sweethearts division. Is that a typo? Should that be Sweet Tarts, or have I been thinking about this wrong the whole time?
The way it's spelled, I haven't really paid attention to it.
Right, I know. But at quarterback here, we've got Justin Herbert, Russell Wilson, Bryce Young, and Stetson Bennett as the last pick for this draft. At running back, we've got King Derrick Henry, James Conner, A.J. Dillon, Jamal Williams, Ezekiel Elliott, Zach Evans, and Malik Davis. At wide receiver, we've got Keenan Allen, Jerry Jeudy, Gabe Davis, Tyler Boyd, Wan'Dale Robinson, and Nathaniel Tank Dell. Tight end, we've got Mark Andrews, Gerald Everett, and Hunter Henry. And the kicker here, two kickers here, a platoon of them. Jake Elliott from the Eagles and Greg Joseph from the Minnesota Vikings. Jerry, what do you think are the strengths of this team here?
I I think I got to go and say the quarterbacks. Got Justin Herbert at 107. Got Russell Wilson, who I think we're all hoping has a bounce back year. Unfortunately, lost one of his receivers this past week in Tim Patrick.
Hmm.
But still, Jerry Judy's there. Cortland Sutton's there. Got a nice pair of tight ends. Got Javonte Williams, who's looking really good in camp and probably going to play a little bit in the preseason. So he's got weapons all around. Sean Payton, I absolutely love that. I love the value on Russ, obviously in the fourth round, but it's a super flex. I don't love where it was picked, but I don't think you were going to get him any later. And then
Hmm.
Bryce Young being the first overall pick, really not a lot of competition there. He should be on the field pretty much all year round, barring any injury. I don't think Andy Dalton's taking the job from him, and I don't think they're going to bench him for any poor performance because they kind of know they kind of know what they're signing up for. Having the well, they didn't technically have the first overall pick; they traded for it, but they know what kind of team they got out there. It's a competitive division, but um, I don't think we're good. I don't think we have any threats to Bryce Young. So three, two semi-strong. Actually, okay, I'll break it down like this: one strong fantasy quarterback, one strong quarterback that has upside if everything goes right in Denver, and then a young quarterback who should be able to fill in some bye weeks and injuries because he should not be leaving the field at all. So I like the trio of quarterbacks here,
No,
and then
I
Stetson
agree
Bennett, who's
completely.
the Stetson Bennett, the veteran in the room.
Stetson Bennett, the man who went to college for 8 years and somehow did not get a degree. And this, let me just confirm this. This is a 6 point passing touchdown league, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, which so that just makes me feel stronger again about Bryce Young too, who maybe in a traditional redraft league, he's probably not going to make waves, but the kind of profile he does have, he's going to be able to throw some touchdowns. It's curious that Russell, I do agree with you. Russell Wilson, maybe in the fourth round was a little bit early, but you're already seeing QB 18 off the board. Towards the middle of the fourth round, QB 22 and Bryce Young then went in the middle of the ninth round. So jumping ahead of myself here, but I do wonder about the value of those picks. It seems like QBs flew off the board very quickly and then not at all after. But then I just want to give a quick shout out to the running back room. It's strong. This is a good room. But I want to note that my man here has a type with his big bruising backs, getting Derrick Henry, Connor, AJ Dillon, Jamal Williams, and Zeke Elliott, all the kinds of backs that will get a lot of carries. Zeke, probably will end up on a team, but that really can shore up the points in a format like this. But my strength really would have to go to the tight end. Of course, getting Mark Andrews in this kind of league is you love to see that. If he can return to his 2021 form, that's a very potent weapon to have. And Gerald Everett, who I think is a very sneaky pickup for me. I mean, 10th round, not that late. So I don't know if I'd say it's amazing value, but I think Gerald Everett will really benefit from having Kellen Moore there, a play caller who featured Dalton Schultz heavily in his offense over at Dallas. So I like having that stack of Everett there with Justin Herbert. So I think the tight ends are very strong. Hunter Henry, maybe a little bit less excited with Mike Gesicki there, taking targets away, even if Hunter gets the red zone work. But, in the 20th round, I think that's more than a fine pick. Yeah, Jerry, quickly, any thoughts on the running backs, tight ends, or any thoughts on them as a weakness for the team? What do you see as weaknesses on this team?
The weakness is probably the tight ends, and that's not a bad thing necessarily because you got Gerald Everett, who is connected to Justin Herbert, but they also have Jerry Judy, so kind of, or not Jerry Judy, Keenan Allen, kind of going with the double stack there with the wide receiver and the tight end. And Hunter Henry, I think that he'll be fine. Maybe I would have taken another tight end in one of those kicker spots. Definitely don't need two kickers, especially this might be If this is on MFL, I think you could play both of them. So that might be a reason why they took them. I'm not sure if this is a sleeper league or not.
Mm,
Sleeper, I think it's only set up to play one. Where MFL, when you set your roster, you could play. I believe you could play two, if I'm not mistaken.
that's
So
right.
taking multiple kickers might not be a bad idea on that platform. So obviously, I don't have that information in front of me. So, um, but yeah, if it's MFL, I don't hate the two kicker setup. If it's not, if it was on sleeper, I may have picked a tight end there instead. But yeah, I love the running backs. I like the wide receivers too. Keenan Allen and Jerry Judy stacking with both Justin Herbert and Russell Wilson is never a bad idea. And I completely missed Mark Andrews, so I
I
don't
was
hate
gonna
the
say, I was
I
gonna
don't
make
hate the
sure
tight
that
ends
that
as much. Yeah, no,
yeah. No, no,
it's
I mean, that's why I personally do think tight end is a strength, and I think if you factor Mark Andrews into your calculation, it definitely isn't a weakness for me. I do agree with you on the strength of the. I like the double stack with the receivers, and Jerry Judy stock should be up. With Tim Patrick going down and KJ Hamler actually also getting waived. Hope everything is okay there. With the both of them, but KJ with a heart issue. Um, you're probably you may be a little bit worried to see if you can get a wide receiver one out of this group, uh, but I think especially in the first two, Allen and Judy, you're feeling pretty strong about players that you could play out, that keep out there week after week. Um, so yeah, I really do like the build of this team. Kind of getting back to the order of our show. What is a pick that you feel especially strong about? You like the value with?
yeah. Just next time you're drafting, don't draft the quarterbacks next to the tight ends because the colors mixed together. The two blues
Right.
kind of just screwed me up. Um, I, it's hard because I've mentioned him on a couple shows. I think I might have mentioned him last week if we had him in one of them, and I've also mentioned him on the Armchair Show with Jeff. But Malik Davis, and until they bring in somebody else that's going to compete with Malik for touches, because Tony Pollard is obviously the guy there. Malik seems to be the number two, and I know the rookie's getting a lot of camp hype, but he's as tall as my 5-year-old. So I really like Malik. I think he's going to be I think he's a solid, especially in the 21st round too. But I think he's a solid piece of that offense. And I don't believe Tony Pollard is built to last 350 touches in the whole year. So I think they're going to mix Malik in there. Now they obviously have the trio of wide receivers there in Dallas, where they may not, when Malik is out there giving Tony Pollard a breather, the ball might not necessarily be going to him. And in fantasy, that's not good. But I think he's going to see the field more often than what he's actually being drafted. Like, he's being super underdrafted. He was basically 2 rounds away from being able to be picked up for free in this league
Right.
here when waivers opened up. But going with Derrick Henry, James Conner, and AJ Dillon, you can take the chance on guys like Zach Evans and Malik Davis, and I like and I like that pick there. And I like AJ Dillon also. While mentioning it in the 8th round, I mean, I think Green Bay is going to rely heavy on the run game, especially transitioning from Jordan Love to Aaron Rodgers, and I think that we're going to see he has potential to be a double-digit touchdown guy. He might not lead the team in touches with Aaron Jones being there, and he's not a huge pass catcher, but we have seen him be able to catch the ball and turn and run with it a few times in the past. But I think that they're going to start slowly transitioning to him being the lead guy too. I think Aaron Jones is done after this year. I think we see a lot more AJ Dillon for Green Bay, and hopefully turns into the running back one in the future. I know this doesn't work for Scott Fishbowl, but if you're in dynasty leagues listening to this, I think you should be excited about AJ Dillon. And I love Mark Andrews. Don't let me forget that.
Right. We certainly won't. No, I completely agree with you on those picks. And I just want to give a shout out to your boy, Gabe Davis, who I think at wide receiver 46 is excellent value. I mean, it is a PPR league, so maybe you're not as excited about him here, but quietly finished as wide receiver 29 last year. I want to say that might have been points per game, but regardless, much better off than where he was picked up here. So I think Gabe could be a good value. On the flip side, and I kind of think I know where you're going to be going with this. what is a pick or two that you may have changed? Cough, cough, kicker, cough, cough.
Kicker is one, but like I said, if it's MFL, I'm not against it because you could throw one of them into the flex. The way that they have it set up, you can throw one of them into the flex.
Mm-hmm.
Jamal Williams is probably the other one. Then we just got news. Obviously, we kind of assumed it for a year and a half that Kamara is probably getting suspended, but it just came out officially the other day because the news is really slow this time of year, so they need stuff to make up stories. But now they're saying, yeah, they think he's going to get suspended, and we're like, yeah, no duh. We kind of thought that since 2 Februarys ago when the
Yeah.
incident happened. But even then, and I know you're not drafting him to pick up 17 touchdowns again on the ground. He's obviously not Detroit anymore either. But I'm not a huge fan of Jamal this year. I think he's obviously in the 12th round. It's a little tough to really have a complaint about that pick. I should be looking on the left side of the board here, but there's not really a pick that I don't like on the left side. So I'm going to go to the first pick on the right side and go with Jamal, and hopefully he proves me wrong and gets in there. And if Kamara's suspended, he's the top guy. But I think it's going to be a little bit of the rookie and Kamara when he is back from his suspension, if it happens.
No, I do agree with that. I had mentioned Jamal Williams a little earlier in our analysis, and I think while there is cause to be worried, certainly, you expect regression from 17 touchdowns in the year. There is competition even with the Kamara suspension. But one thing I do like about Jamal Williams is the schedule that the NFC South, the Saints in the South will have. Not only are they playing each other in the South twice in the year, they're also playing the AFC South this year. So that includes, the Texans, the Colts, and Titans are a little bit better, very respectable defense, but not the best teams. Teams that the Saints will be able to keep close or lead. Teams against which I wouldn't be surprised if Jamal Williams gets, maybe an unsexy 15, 16 touches for 50 rushing yards, but suddenly with the points per carry, that's respectable performance, then always touchdown upside. I'm not as low on that pick. But yeah, I do like this draft overall. Thank you so much for the submission, Fister Bottom. Hope that analysis helped, and good luck with the league this year. Moving swiftly on to our last team. Thank you so much for the submission. This is coming from Drew Hamilton 1184, or on Sleeper or MFL known as Sam Snackwright. I wonder if this is submitted on someone else's behalf. But this team here, we've got at quarterback Lamar Jackson, Jared Goff, Sam Howell. At running back, Nick Chubb, Miles Sanders, David Montgomery, Antonio Gibson, Kenny Gainwell, Izzy Abanikanda, who I think got a touchdown today, Keontae Ingram, Sean Tucker. A wide receiver got Stephon Diggs, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jahan Dotson, Gabe Davis, Zay Flowers, John Mechie, Jaden Reed. Tight end, we got David Njoku, Trey McBride, Cade Otton, and the kicker is Jason Myers of the Seattle Seahawks. Jerry, what do you think are the strengths of this team here?
This is my team here. This is Lamar is my. This isn't my team, but Lamar is my SFB quarterback. But I'm gonna go with the strength is the position that has four of my favorite guys that I'm targeting this year. One a little less than I was because they picked up a couple guys this offseason, but I'm going with running backs. Nick Chubb and Miles Sanders are basically my 1 and 2 guys to be high up there in overall rushing yards. Nick Chubb could obviously lead the league in rushing touchdowns. Miles Sanders, I've been drafting him everywhere. I think that he has a chance to, and this isn't just like, I guess it is a bold take, but I think he has a chance to lead the league in rushing yards. And I'm not just saying that. Like, they have a great O-line down there in Carolina, a rookie quarterback, and not a lot of huge weapons on the outside for Young to throw to. So I think Miles Sanders is going to get worked. There's not a lot of competition behind him, and he could catch the ball out of the backfield. I think we're going to see what we should have saw in Philadelphia out of him in Carolina. and sign a nice little contract. And then Antonio Gibson, another guy I've been targeting between him and Brian Robinson, but I like the upside of the passing upside in Antonio Gibson and being out there. And they realistically both could be out there on the field at the same time. And then Kenny Gainwell is the one that I was targeting early, but obviously they brought in Swift and Rashad Penny, so he has lost a little bit of value. But I think that it's going to be a committee there in Philadelphia, and I think he has a chance to just prove everybody wrong and hopefully make the most of his touches. Now he's probably not going to be a guy that you're starting on a weekly basis, especially with the four other guys that you got, Sanders, Montgomery, Chubb, and Antonio Gibson. But being on that offense with the number one offensive line in the league and one of the top offenses overall as far as scoring points and moving the ball. If Swift or Penny were to go down, which they've known to do in the past, I think Kenny Gainwell is a huge value. And that I'm just going to answer the question of what my favorite value pick is. I think it's Kenny Gainwell. So you can just skip me on that question now.
No, I love that. I completely agree with you here. I mean, especially on the Miles Sanders. This is a guy that I think is being heavily slept on by some people. In the space, we did see what Deonta Foreman and Chuba Hubbard did last year with that Panthers O line that has got the number one pick in the draft. So a quarterback upgrade certainly, and is a better running back, than what they had. A running back that we've literally seen video evidence of the coaching staff telling him that we want to see you catch 50 balls again this year. So I think he could be, a fantastic option. I'm going to quickly jump into my favorite or my strength for this team, which in addition to the running backs, really, but I also love the wide receivers in this room. Obviously, you can't go wrong with that combo there of Diggs and the Sun God. But then I like the values of getting Jahan Dotson, Gabe Davis, who was wide receiver 46 in the last team we looked at, but now goes around later. Gabe Davis, again, great value there, getting that double stack on one of the highest powered offenses in the league. Zay Flowers, we still don't know who's going to be the receiver one in Baltimore, and Zay Flowers has certainly been showing out in camp so far. And then another John Mechie team here, and we've talked about him at length. Lastly, just want to mention Jayden Reed at wide receiver 85 in the 21st round. You can take your shots on anyone you want, but with the profile that he has, you don't know how good Jordan Love is going to be. He might rely on kind of that shorter intermediate yardage guy, which Reed does profile to be. So I think a receiver is also a strength here. On the other hand, what do you think is the weakness of this team?
Kicker. There really isn't a weakness of this team. I think this might be my favorite team of the 8 teams that we talked about. It's got a lot of the guys that I've been targeting. It's got a really nice build. You got 2.5 strong quarterbacks. You got 2 of my favorite deep tight ends that I've been targeting. And this is not just in Scott Fishbowl, but this is like just all over best balls. I've been looking at these guys. I've been looking at them in dynasty startups. Like Cade Otton could realistically lead his team in targets too. Obviously, it's kind of weird saying that because they got Mike Evans and Chris Godwin, but like with a question mark at quarterback and a guy that either one of them, they're going to want to continue to keep their job. They might try to get the ball out as quick as they can, and getting it over the middle to Cade Otton in those short routes might be the way to do that. Same thing with Trey McBride. Obviously, like I said, they lost DeAndre Hopkins earlier in the offseason. They got Hollywood Brown there too, but Trey McBride could be the second leading receiver on his own team, which in Arizona maybe not the greatest thing, but again, like tight end premium league, and you could throw any one of these 3 guys out there on any given week and possibly get a tight end 1 week from any one of them. And Njoku, we've already touched a little bit about him from another team. This is my favorite build. If I had to choose a weakness or my least favorite position, I guess we'll say tight end, because I do like the quarterbacks. I like Lamar Jackson has quarterback 1 upside. Jared Goff, with the weapons that he has, could be a low-end quarterback 1. So it probably has to be tight end because it is question marks. I'm just going off of like my love for them doesn't mean that they're going to turn into these Pro Bowl all-star players. But so I'm going to say tight end just because I have a lot of hype for them, but they could be the least desirable position on this team.
Yeah, no, I think I agree with you with everything that's said. With the fact that this is one of the strongest teams, if not the strongest, that we've reviewed. So well done here, Drew Hamilton or Sam Snackerite, whoever you are. But let's bring the man back to ground for a second. What is we talked about our favorite picks kind of when we've gone through this, but what is one pick you may have changed if you were in the draft room?
It's tough. I mean, you really because maybe okay, Njoku probably, and they might have gone with a different tight end or a different position there because of what I think about Trey McBride and Kate on. But like going into round 8, going into drafting Njoku and having 3 running backs and 2 top wide receivers and 2 quarterbacks already, you really can't go wrong. So to answer the question, probably Njoku, but I can't say that with a straight face because I really don't believe that. I think Njoku is going to be good, but maybe I might have gone a different position or picked a different tight end there.
No, I agree with you that one. Kind of like I said on the last team, I'm not as big of a fan of that value there, but I do think it is made up by Trey McBride, Kate Auden. I agree with your analysis, and I think Trey McBride, one of the biggest receivers, pass catchers there in a team full of short guys. So I do think he has a sneaky value. One pick I may have changed, and in the 17th round, are you really going to be too upset about this? But Izzy Abanikanda, I like the talent of the kid, but it is a crowded backfield. Of course, Brees Hall is there. You've got Zonovan Knight, who kind of broke out last year, Michael Carter, and now this was certainly drafted before the Dalvin Cook news of the last week or so. But especially if Dalvin comes in, then Izzy could even feasibly be 5th in line for carries. Maybe would have gone with a different handcuffed sort of running back with a clearer path. Like I almost prefer I would have reached and taken Malik Davis in the 17th round over Izzy, for example. All that being said, if I am faulting a pick in the 17th round, that does mean I'm pretty happy with this draft overall. Any closing thoughts on this team before we wrap up?
This is probably another Brissett team. I would easily drop Sean Tucker or Keontae Ingram and pick up Brissett if he's available. And none of the Scott Fishbowl leagues have waivers open yet. They're planned for like a certain day for all the leagues. I forgot what day it was. But definitely keep an eye on it. Put him on your watch list. Star him. And once they open waivers, drop one of those 2 running backs and pick up Brissett to have the backup there for Sam Howell.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with that. I would make a strong quarterback room even stronger. But that's all we have for today. Well, thank you so much first for the submission here and for the submission from all of the 4 contributors. I hope you guys enjoy the analysis, and if you're watching and without a team, a dog in this fight, I hope you enjoy the analysis provided by Jerry and myself today. I think today has been one of my favorite episodes of the show thus far. But Jerry, quick sign off for the viewers. Let them know where they can find you and what you're working on right now.
You can find me at Jerry Wilkie FM on X, Twitter. You could just search me on Facebook too, just under Jerry Wilkie. I'm more likely to answer there. You can find us in the Discord, and you can also, and the Discord is right at the bottom of your screen there. And on Saturday nights for the IDP show, when the season starts up, we're a couple weeks away from that, so I'm going to be getting back into the IDP stuff, Cover Zero IDP. And the last thing, keep a lookout on our Discord. We're thinking about running a little contest, a little giveaway, really, not really a contest, but a little giveaway for the fantasy assessment. So tell all your friends and keep a lookout, and we'll give you some details on what the giveaway is in the Discord in the fantasy assessment tab.
Right. Thank you for catching me there while I slept at the wheel. But we are planning a giveaway. So do hop into the Discord, submit your teams. We love breaking them down. We love giving you guys the advice to help you win your leagues. You can find me, Rahul, at nrahul11 over on Twitter. Of course, co-hosting the fantasy assessment, getting on the other shows that we have. I'm starting to do a little more soccer stuff on the side. Launched my own soccer podcast. And I'm also going to be on iHeartRadio this upcoming week talking the Women's World Cup. So definitely do catch that when I drop the link. But that's all from us tonight. Thank you so much. And this has been the Fantasy Assessment. Good night.